to Genesis chapter 37. We're only going to go through verses 1 through 11, and I'm going to leave them selling their brother until next week. So, it's kind of interesting because what we're going to do from here on out, Jacob's still part of the story, but it's switching again as it shifted. And usually where they say that, and it goes, when it says these are the generations in Genesis, I didn't know this, but that's when it's a shift to another story. So the last 14 chapters are going to be about Joseph. And as I was reading in Wiersbe's book and reading, there were some interesting things that I never thought of because they never bring it up. If you look at Joseph and look at his life, as we go through these next chapters, Joseph was kind of, what was it? Not a type, I can't remember the word, but he was a close resemblance of Christ and how he carried his life and how he lived his life. So I thought that was interesting compared to all the other patriarchs or whatever you would call them as we get to this point. But what we see in these couple verses that we're going to go over is we're going to see favorites, dreams, and jealousy. I don't know if y'all had a chance to read 37 or not. I know Heather did, but I didn't know if anybody else had a chance. Only because she would ask me questions at home that she won't ask me when she's in here among you people. So, but verse 1 and 2 says this, and Jacob dwelled in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. That word stranger means he was just a sojourner or just traveling and just took up temporary residence. And these are the generations of Jacob, and this is where the transition and we go, and it's more talking about Joseph than Jacob anymore. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, with those two concubines. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil reports. As we see here Joseph is helping his brothers in the field. Because, he's what? There's 12 of them. He's number 11. Joseph is out here helping his brothers in the field. They've made it to Canaan. They're dwelling in Canaan. They're out in the field and they're taking care of the land. We kind of believe that he was just out there helping. He was just out there learning as he was out there with the brothers. But we hear something significant here. And I can't remember, is this where you asked, was he a tattletale? You got to help me with what you asked, Heather, because I've kind of got it now. I'm just trying to put it together. Joseph comes home and he tells his dad, Jacob, what the other brothers were doing. Now, we don't know what the other brothers were doing, other than whatever they were doing was not very nice. Because he said, he came and told of their evil report. We don't know if Jacob said, hey, what are my sons doing? But I kind of think Jacob probably knew something was going on. What they were doing, we don't know. Were they chasing after women when they were out in the field? Sounds weird, were they smoking something they weren't supposed to be smoking out in the field? What were they doing? I don't know. What was their evil reports? How were they acting? It really doesn't tell, but it does tell that Joseph comes home, and it was said, did you say, wouldn't that be considered? I know in a lot of the commentaries I read, it's like, why didn't he go home and tattletale? And I think that Joseph was just a good kid. And when he saw something wrong, he told his dad. There is that, could it be that Joseph said, hey, what are my sons doing out there? What are they doing? Are they going out in the field and you're the only one taking care of them and they're leaving? There was some reasons that he told, and then did he tell because he knew that it would bring harm to Jacob? Would it bring a bad report on Jacob? Would it make the family look bad? I mean, every one of us just probably went through at some point in time that we did have to go and tell mom and dad or tell somebody what was going on that wasn't right because A, it was going to hurt the parents, or B, it was going to hurt the person that was doing the wrong. You know, so he came, and instead of being silent, he couldn't be silent. And I also think that he was probably walking with God at this point in time in his life, and that was wrong, and someone needed to be told. You got what I'm saying? There's not really much said there other than he was working with him and he turned it in. Well, in doing that, guess what happened? His brothers ain't going to care for him much anymore. And you'll see that. If you look at 3 and 4, it says this. Now Israel, which we know is Jacob, loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And I'm just going to stop there real quick. Joseph was Jacob's favorite. And it pretty much stemmed from this. Who did he want to marry first? Who did he make the deal with Laban to marry?
Rachel.
Rachel. He loved Rachel. He loved Rachel when Rachel couldn't have children and Leah was having children. He loved Rachel even after he woke up the next morning and he was married to Leah when Laban scammed her. He loved Rachel. And then when Rachel had that first child, and then when Rachel passed away, as much as he doted on Rachel, he doted on Joseph. Joseph was his favorite son. He probably treated Joseph just like his mama treated him. The sad part about that, he didn't learn any lessons from how that turned out with him. I mean, here he is, he was the favorite. They connived to have the birthright stole from Esau, which God was already had it planned to give to Jacob anyway. So he makes him, what does he make him? A coat of many colors. I mean, usually when we think of Joseph, that's the first thing everybody thinks of, right? You either think of the coat of many colors, or what is the other thing you think about with Joseph? Oh, Lord, I hope I got this right. I think I do. When he becomes the grand vizier or the prime minister or whatever you would call it for the Egyptian king, and what does his wife do? She goes in there and tries to seduce him. Remember, and he gets thrown in, locked up? Yeah. So usually those are the two things I remember about Joseph. It's those two things right there. But this coat was made, and we really believe that this nice tunic that was made for him, because most of the time a tunic was basically, it looked like almost a blanket. They would throw it over, cut a hole in the middle, and then they would use straps to tie it up. But they really believed that this one was made for like royalty. So it had sleeves with it. So it had sleeves with it, and it wasn't the normal what you would see them do. It had sleeves with it. And a lot of times those were made, which I don't get this part, but they said those were made, if you looked at the Greek and Hebrew words and all that stuff that I don't get, okay? That's why I use commentaries to tell me about it. That those were usually reserved for like king's daughters and stuff. It was a sign of royalty. It was a sign of this. So here is Joseph. He's getting this. Jacob's not thinking that this is going to make the other brothers mad. And you read in verse 4, and when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. So he got a special coat. They saw that his dad doted on him and loved him more than any other, and it made them hate him the much more. It made them to where they couldn't stand him that much more. And we'll learn that as we go into next week, that their hatred is so much, they want to what? First kill him, throw him down a hole, and then they sell him. But it's just, I couldn't imagine being disliked. How did you like it when you thought mom and dad loved the other brother or sister more? Did it make you angry? Look at Heather, she's shaking her head, she don't want the camera here to say yes. It did, didn't it? You'd get jealous, right? Unless you were the only child.
We had that problem with the grandmother, not with our parents.
Really?
Our parents didn't like any of us, but I had
Oh.
a grandmother who had 12 grandkids. And I was young when she claimed.
Oh, really?
So I had to back away from her. Because I told her, I said, you can't treat my sibling, and my cousins, the way you do, and treat me this way. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So I had to stand up to her. 12, 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was just too obvious. Way too obvious.
Mm.
Well, with that being said, my other thought, why would Israel give his son a coat or something that would make him stand out, be the odd man out? You just don't do that. I mean, it's kind of like putting a bullseye on your son that you love.
And I don't think he saw that, though. I think he just loved him so much and he was taking care of him. But I also think that, and I did read this somewhere and it makes sense, that he looked at him. He was going to be the head of the family.
The royal.
He was going to be the head of the family. He was the one that was going to carry on. Reuben had slept with one of these concubines. Leah's son Reuben had, so he lost what his dad had took from Esau as headship of the family. And then as you go to the next two, they're the ones that killed the whole village. And Jacob didn't recognize, from what we believe, he didn't recognize any of Leah's kids or the concubine's kids as the firstborn. That firstborn to him was the one that was firstborn to his wife, Rachel, whom he first intended to marry. So, everything that Joseph was getting, too many J's in here, Joseph was getting, I don't think Jacob saw it as he should have, because he lived through that, even though he was the one getting the benefits from it. But he didn't. He looked at it as he was just following through on what he did. And I don't think Joseph got it. I think Joseph was probably wondering why. I think Joseph was probably sheltered a little bit. He didn't realize. I really don't think Joseph meant any intentions in what we're about to read as he was rubbing things into them. Because we're about to read the dreams that he had. Because, he's sitting there and he knows his brothers dislike him. I don't think he can figure out really why. I think the coat probably brought something up, maybe why. But here we go. Let's get into verse, I'm just going to read 5. Let's start at 5. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream, which I have dreamed. And I'm sure when he came to him and he said, Hey, look, I've got a dream. I've got something. I want y'all to hear this dream that I've dreamed. I think this is from God. This I want you to hear it. And I'm sure his brothers were like, Hey, look, just shut up. Just as I was kidding with Heather, because we heard on TV, just shut your face. I don't want to hear it. Heather hates that.
I don't know.
and I'm sure they're like, look, we don't want to hear anything you have to say. Just be quiet. Go sit in your bunk. Go leave us alone. Don't go bother us. I'm sure there was, why don't you go to Daddy? Why don't you go sit with Daddy? Why don't you just leave us alone? And he said, here I pray you this dream, which I have dreamed, for behold, we were binding sheaves in the field. And lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood around about mine, and made obeisance, or bowed down to my sheep. And his brethren said to him, shall thou indeed reign over us, or shall thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. So most of the time you would look at that and you would think, okay, this kid's just rubbing it in. Wouldn't you think that? He's just rubbing it in. But that's not the case here. This is a dream he felt that he got from God, and I don't think he's making light of it, or he's making fun of them, or he's saying, hey, y'all are going to bow down for me. I think he genuinely believes, because that dream comes true. As we go through the rest of the book, when his brothers come and find him, they figure out who he is, and he brings them in. They live with him, and he's not master over him, but he's over him because that's how he's put. But he tells them, he said, hey, here's my dream. We were out in the field, and the sheep that I was messing with stood up, and y'all just bowed down. Now, David, you had brothers and sisters, right? Or did you just have sisters?
I had sisters.
You had 4 sisters. Now, imagine if you went and told your sisters that, what would happen? And by Kathy laughing, I already know what would happen. Your underwear would be over your head because you'd have a wedgie. So, and you'd get beat up and pelted with soap in a towel. It just wouldn't go good, right? Kathy laughing made it great. You couldn't even lie, David. You couldn't even lie and say, oh, they'd been okay with it. Because I was the boss. Because we'd have known that was a lie, because she about fell on the ground over here. And she still can't stop laughing. Sorry, David, I shouldn't have used
But
you.
my mother would have threw up the wall.
Now that's the God.
I was her favorite.
Really?
Yes.
So he tells them this dream, and they hate him much more. Why? Because he says, y'all will be bowing down to me. Y'all will be worshiping me. And as you look at that, and I'm not trying to picture it in the New Testament, but look at all those Pharisees and Sadducees, the religious people that didn't like it. Because here's Jesus walking around. He didn't say the words like Joseph said, so don't get that wrong. But he claimed to be the Son of God, and they hated him for that. They hated him for that because some of them thought he was a liar, but if that was true, they were going to have to change everything the way they had everybody believing in them in the first place. They were getting the worships. They were getting this. And I kind of see these brothers in the same way. Well, whatever evil reports what they were doing, whatever they were doing, they were in control of whatever they were doing. And this would take control away from them, and they would have to bow down to this one brother. It wasn't cool to them. That's why a lot of people don't follow Christ. Because they have to stop doing what they want to do and follow and listen to him. It's a hard thing. What we talked about on Wednesday night, like when Robert brought up how could people living under Jesus Christ and him being, I'm going to use the word ruler, but being the ruler during that 1,000-year reign would still just off and run and do what they want. It's no different than us today. He is my king. He is my master. He is my savior. And I should want to listen to him here now. And half the time we don't as Christians. It's going to be no different when it's actually, you can physically see him, or, you know, during that 1,000-year reign, there's going to be some that's going to want to break away, like Ken was saying at the end of it. And I'll be honest, I still get confused with the whole Revelation stuff. The time periods. And I'm looking forward to this because I told Ken, I was thinking about when we were sitting there. You know, I took Revelations in Bible college, but I had to stop right in the middle of it because I thought I could go to Bible college when we had Alexa. That was one of the classes I never did get to complete. But so he's hated, and they hate him that much more. But it doesn't stop. You would think as much as your brothers hate you, you wouldn't go what verse 9 just says. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren. And said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. I've had another dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars are bowed down to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. This time his father's in there. And his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to this earth? So his dad sitting there going, Really? Do you think this is what's going to happen? But I like what 11 says. And his brethren envied him or hated him. But his father observed the saying. He kept that matter in his mind. He'll remember this as Joseph takes over the family. As Joseph goes into this and he sees this, he will remember this. It will come. It will, as Miss Kay says, it'll come to his remembering. Is that how she says it? He'll remember what was said here. Because dreams played a pivotal role back in those days. You know, they played a pivotal role back in those days, and he'll remember this, and he'll go, okay. So we see here in just these couple of verses, there really wasn't much, but I didn't want to get into where they start plotting against him, because as we read 12 through the end of the chapter, you will see that they plot to kill him. Then one of the brothers, I can't remember if it was it Reuben or was it Benjamin? No, Benjamin would have been at home because he'd have been way too young. That was actually Joseph's true brother from Rachel, his little brother. They're all his brothers, but from the same mom. But one of them will say, we can't kill him. That's their dad's favorite. And so they'll choose to sell him. But as we see in this, we get introduced to Joseph, and we see how much his father loves him, and see how much his father cares for him. And we just, how can I say this and make it make sense? We can see sometimes how much being faithful to our Father can get us hated by the world, by seeing how Joseph was hated by his brothers. Because he was faithful to his father. He obeyed his father. He loved his father. He cared for his father. And he trusted his father. That's what I got out of these verses. And if you look at that and then look at us as we should be to our Father. Because I really believe we are his favorites. As Christians, we are our Father's favorite, which is God. Because there's no, but in a lost and dying world, we can be hated. We see that every single day. That we're hated because we choose to live for him. We choose to live right. Joseph chose to live right, and he was hated by his other brethren. We're the same way. We take a stand on how we're to live and how we're to walk and the standards that are presented to us from the Bible. And we're hated by a world that says you ought to be able to do whatever's right in your own mind, whatever makes you feel good, and however you want to live. And we're hated, and we're ridiculed, and we're mocked, and people are killed for it. So, I'm going to ask Heather if you'll pray, and we'll go on over to the